What if I told you that Secret Lives of Mormon Wives actually made me want to go back to church, Mormon church, which I've been a member my entire life, but I took a 7-year break from the church. I actually had my records removed. I had really thought long and hard about the doctrine in the church. I read the CES letter over and over again, printed it off for friends, ended up leaving the church to stand on principle and had my records removed. And then when I started watching this show on Hulu, Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, which follows several women, Mormon women that live in Utah and their marriages and their friendship dynamics, it actually made me want to go back to church. Wild as that sounds, let's get into why. Number one, when I first started watching the show, it had a lot of backlash within the Mormon, and I'm going to refer to the Latter-day Saint community as Mormon because that's what the world knows us as, and that's what the show refers to this specific demographic as. I think what draws you in the most is that these women are really beautiful and that they also kind of live on the periphery of Mormonism. If you're in the religion of Mormonism, you know that the strapless dresses that they wear, sometimes they drink alcohol, they party, they swear, they're really like powerful kind of cutting edge women when you really watch it and you get past your biases on it. This is not normal within the Latter-day Saint culture. And so a lot of Latter-day Saints themselves were professing that they weren't really Mormon and kind of discounting the show and dismissing it because they don't act like your typical traditional Mormons. And when I first watched the show, I thought the same thing. I was like, they're not really LDS. They're just using that for clout. They're using that to be famous, and they're not really Mormon. But as you watch the seasons, you realize that a lot of them do have faith. A lot of them do feel strongly, and they're involved in the Mormon religion. Macy, for example, is a temple-going member. We see Taylor going to church. We see them praying before they eat dinner all together when they're getting together. We see them talking about garments and talking about like these typical Mormon aspects of life, and you can see that they're actually living this Mormon life probably differently than the average Mormon. And so it makes you pause and think like, wait a minute, I'm more curious about this. This isn't just something that they're using for clout. And so that made me pause as an ex-Mormon because I was like, wait a minute, what's happening here? Because when I grew up in the 80s, in Mormonism, it was like very by the book, very letter of the law. Like you did not buy things on Sunday. You did not wear your garments 24/7. You didn't swear. You didn't drink Coke with caffeine. Like it was very letter of the law and very specific. And if you didn't live that way, you were considered a bad Mormon. I mean, look at Heather Gay's book. It's titled Bad Mormon for a reason because that is the label that you were given if you did not follow all of the rules. And there was really like no middle ground. And I'm watching the show as an ex-Mormon, knowing all of the cultural references and spiritual references because I was in the church for like 40 plus years. So I understand completely. And I'm recognizing like these women do have testimonies of faith. They're just choosing to live the religion on their terms. So for me, like an 80s Mormon, I was like, the audacity, what? How can they have real testimonies and faith in this religion if they're not willing to live the rules perfectly? Like in my mind, I had so much cognitive dissonance. I could not justify that. I couldn't make sense of it in my brain. Like it broke my brain actually. I remember one specific episode. Taylor was talking about how she went to church after she dropped the baby off to Dakota. And she said, I can live in the gray. Some people can't, but I can. That stood out to me because I was like, wait a minute. She's making a cognizant decision to live in the gray. She's making a cognizant decision that she can take what she likes from the church and discard what she doesn't. And she's looking at the crux in the heart of the matter of the church, which is that we're all loved by God. We're all sinners. Church is a hospital for sinners. It's not a museum for the perfect. And she's going to church exactly how she is, living this out loud life on TV, admitting her mistakes. And some of them are considered very serious in the eyes of the Mormon doctrine. And she's doing it, sleeping with Dakota and then going to church on Sunday and like trying to do her best and trying to go to church because it gives her support. She's not cowering away from the church because she has to be a certain thing to go there. She's being herself, flawed and all, making decisions, making mistakes, learning as she goes, having a human experience, and then going to church and getting what she needs out of it, which is support, which is faith, which is love, which is connection with God. And then she's going home and she's living her human life. No Nobody's expecting her to be perfect. She's living in the gray. And that, in my little ex-Mormon brain, was like, you can do that? Coming from the 80s, I had no idea that you could do that. And so that was an example to me. Another thing I saw in the show was, I'm very vocal in my videos about patriarchy. I'm very vocal about problems that I have in general in life, in our culture, in our society, with men lording over women, men subjugating women, women not having the freedom and the space to like take up and truly like lead and be in their divine femininity and lead from that place. And we not only see it out in like every power structure on planet Earth, but we see it a lot in the Mormon faith. And it was one of the reasons why I left the Mormon faith, to be honest. You can go back and watch any of my videos if you have any doubt about that. I talk about it very openly. However, you hear these women dissecting how the patriarchy has affected them, dissecting how men have subjugated women for far too long, not only in our culture in general, but within the Mormon culture. And you see them calling out these men and showing other women in their friendship circle how they're being subjugated by the patriarchy. And they're saying aloud, we will not tolerate this anymore. We will not stand for this. So to me, that was like, wow, these 20-year-old something women are actually trying to make changes within the church. And these are changes to strike down patriarchy, call attention to the ways in which men subjugate women. And we see plentiful examples of this in the show. We see Jordan, emotionally abusing Jesse. We see Zach talking down to Jen and like making her feel terrible. We see Dakota trying to slut shame Taylor for just doing the same exact things he does, but on a much more minor scale. We see Taylor's stepdad slut shaming her. We see all these like glaring examples of how men subjugate women and how patriarchy is a very real thing. And then you hear like Macy and Michaela talking about how dusty men and men like this are disgusting and how they don't want to have any part in that. They don't want to prop these men up. They don't want to support these men. They're calling it out. The fact that all of those women in season 3 sat down with Jordan when he was trying to underhandedly smear campaign Jesse and get everybody against her because his ego was so bruised that she cheated on him, and all the women stood up for her and said, no, you're in the wrong, to me was a huge hallelujah moment. How I wish that my prior friends would have done that for me. The opposite happened. They chose the men. Okay? So it was like really eye-opening to me to see like these women are not perfect and they're still subjugated in many ways, but they understand their value and worth as a feminine. They understand the problems within the church and they are doing their best to speak out about it and like be a vocal voice for how the church needs to change from within. This is the last part, and this is a little bit more vague and like general idea as to why Secret Lives of Mormon Wives actually piqued my interest in returning to church. I saw these powerful women like Jessie, beautiful business owner, Taylor, like top of her game, leader of this social group, like a beautiful person that's self-aware and like a very strong leader. And even Macy, who like is a more neutral character, but like wrote a book and is like really making the most of herself. And I'm seeing like, I remember Mormon women are like this. Mormon women are powerful. Mormon women are beautiful. Mormon women are strong. Mormon women go after what they want. And I looked at that and I thought, the old me, the ex-Mormon me thought like, oh, it's just because they're trying to prove themselves and they're just trying to prove their worth. But now I recognize that it's because of the church. It's because the church, with its problems in patriarchy, also reveres women, also tells women all the time how important they are. The men in Mormonism are providers. Now, they're not always protectors. Mormon men have a lot of healing to do to fully like integrate their emotions and their masculine and feminine and show up for the women in their lives. We see this very heavily in this show. The men need to do better. But in Mormonism, the women are allowed to explore and be creative, and they're encouraged to go after their dreams and build businesses because the men in their lives provide for them in most cases. And I love that about the culture. I relate with that. I resonate with it. I think it's good. Do we have a lot of work to go? Absolutely, yes. But I think the women in this show that there's a new way that you can actually live in the Mormon church. It's not so letter of the law. It's more about the effort that you put in. It's about the spirit of love community, service, and just showing up as you are.